Welcome to the AV Business Buzz Podcast. I'm your host, Cheryl. How are you today?
Hi, Ishmi. Nice to see you.
First, let's start off. What is the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra?
So the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra is a professional orchestra. We are also a nonprofit organization, and we provide the community with concerts and high-class, high-quality entertainment, and it's family-friendly and affordable and inclusive programming. And we have a fantastic season of concerts to share with the public this year.
Okay, so what was your introduction to music and how you got introduced into music?
I got introduced into music when I was 5 years old. I started learning the violin through a method called the Suzuki method. And that's really interesting because Dr. Suzuki had a philosophy that there was a connection between the parent, the teacher, and the student. And it made learning immersive and very connected through family practice, and really ingrained in me this sense of purpose and community and the value of community. And with this program, it also taught me to have excellent ear training, and I really enjoyed participating in an orchestra. So I studied music and went to college to be a music teacher, and I taught public school and private school music for many years before I decided to raise my sons at home and teach private violin and viola lessons before transitioning into starting this nonprofit organization.
So you mentioned you worked at schools. How did your work at schools help make the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra?
I think all the experience that I've ever had in my life has led me to this point. I don't have a business degree, yet I am immersed in the business world, and part of that is learning how schools function. Schools in itself are a business entity, right? We're paid to do a job, there's administrative component, there are meetings that you need to make sure you attend and be organized, and also be willing to ask questions and do the work. So working in schools gave me a very good foundation to build an organization, and knowing to surround myself with also well-educated people who are thoughtful and kind and know what they're doing. We bring everything to the table as we proceed with building an organization.
Okay, so another question I have is, who's your biggest inspiration when it comes to music, and also your biggest inspiration when it comes to the business world? Because you mentioned you're fully immersed in the world of business right now.
Yeah, those are great questions. So I would say one of the people that I have the honor of working with is our conductor, Nate White, and I think that he is truly a gem. He is one of the most talented musically, but also gifted communicators. The music speaks through him, and I really enjoy learning from him, and I have looked to him as a mentor in that part of the organization and as a partner as we're developing this organization. And then in business, I have met such incredible people through the East Brunswick Region Chamber of Commerce. There's a lot of business owners, whether it's restaurant owners or insurance agents, whomever, and we all come together to help each other through networking. Just recently, there was a concert in the Community Arts Center yesterday, and that was made possible because of the connections that I had met and fostered through the East Brunswick Region Chamber of Commerce. And I think the mayor of East Brunswick, Brad Cohen, has done a fantastic job at cultivating that idea of working together to boost the economy. I think the arts are heavily connected with the economy, and our economic development officer, Rob Zuckerman, also does that as his main job, is really connecting the community through all of the different aspects that we have.
So on the topic of inspiration, which inspired the creation of the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra?
Would you believe I went for a run? I run twice a week, about a 5K, and it's very good for me mentally to get energized and clear my head. And I kept coming back to this idea how much I missed playing in an orchestra. 14 years ago, before I taught private violin and viola lessons, I met Nate White through playing from his orchestra, and that was up in Summit. And I had bought a house in East Brunswick and just couldn't do that kind of commute with a newborn at home. And it had been 14 years since I'm playing again, and I'm finally playing in the newly created East Brunswick Community Symphonia. But it took an inspiration burst and a run for me to realize that if you want something, you have to build it, because nobody's going to do it for you. You have to do it. And so I called Nate and I said, well, what would it take to start an orchestra? And we talked for hours about the different aspects of procuring instruments and what rehearsals would be involved, the cost, and what facilities we would need. And we went through all of that, and afterwards I realized it's so incredible that East Brunswick has such a flourishing arts epicenter in the heart of New Jersey. It would be perfect to create something like this here. So what we ended up doing was, instead of starting with the community orchestra, the East Brunswick Recreation and Parks Department, who's our partner, decided that we should have a concert to kick off the music program. And the only way you can do that is if you have a professional orchestra in 6 weeks. They wanted 6 weeks to be able to do this. So we put on a concert because professional musicians that Nate had called volunteered. Nate said, hey, I'm interested in starting a new ensemble. Would you be willing to volunteer until we can get this into a professional gig for you? And they all said yes, and we had right here in this theater a sold out concert last January, and then we performed as a professional ensemble the July 4th fireworks show. So now I'm playing with the community ensemble, and our first debut concert is November 24th.
Okay. You must be excited about that.
Very.
So what were some challenges in starting the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra?
I think I had a clear vision of what I wanted this to look like, and so far it's been pretty on point to where I thought. But it's always interesting what you don't know. For example, I've had to learn what a nonprofit 501c3 is, and that there's different classifications. You could be a public charity, you could be a private foundation. We have constantly been evolving, creating bylaws, creating a board of trustees. All of that had to be made, and that is not my background. So it's been challenging to find out what it is that needs to be done and how to get there. But the most important thing that, and I'm very thankful that I have, is my vision. Because I feel that by being able to literally see in my head what this company can do and how the public enjoys it and what our goals and values are, it leads me right on that path. And I've surrounded myself with really incredibly generous people who offer their expertise and help guide me in that direction.
So you mentioned Board of Trustees. Do you want to tell our viewers what a Board of Trustees is?
Sure. Board of Trustees is legally obligated to be formed in order to establish a company. And this is your governing board. So in a C-suite situation, you'll have an executive director or the chief, economic developer. You'll have a chief scientist sometimes, depending on what your company is. But a board of trustees is the governing board of the directors. So for me, the board of trustees helps me stay with our mission and helps me facilitate that mission. And a board responsibilities, they're both ambassadors of the organization. They're the ones that go out into the public as well and advocate on your behalf. But they also make sure that we're complying with the IRS and making sure that our paperwork is filed and really shepherding the organization into the different phases of development. And Board of Trustees, not only are they legally required, but they're essential to the success of any, certainly nonprofit. You need to have a very good working board, which I'm really fortunate to have. And the more that engaged that they are and the more hands-on and a part of it, it helps to the success of the company.
So without the Board of Trustees, where do you think the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra would be today?
Well, you really can't form an organization. It's legally required to have them. I will somewhat reframe that to say that I am very lucky to have the Board of Trustees that I have, between our treasurer, who's a cellist with the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra, and a longtime friend of mine and Nate's, to help shepherd the financial health of the company, to our president, who grew up playing percussion and has a real knack for the administrative needs. We've incorporated people who bring all different skill sets to our board. And so as a group, we are able to tackle big issues and also be able to innovate for what's to come.
Okay, so I saw on your website the Community Sinfonia program. Do you want to explain what that is?
Sure. So part of the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra is a partnership with the East Brunswick Recreation and Parks Department. And through that is a community orchestra. And what makes it a community orchestra is people became members by submitting a pre-screen form where they played their instrument, told us a little bit about themselves, and luckily everybody who applied was accepted because they were really good and wanted to be a part of an orchestra. So it's a community orchestra, and we also have, through this partnership, classes for adults. You know, kids have, as you know, many different opportunities to participate. There are youth orchestras all over Middlesex County. Through my research, I found that there were no adult community orchestras in Middlesex County. So yes, there are some in surrounding counties, but this really fulfills an unmet need. And so we offer the community orchestra as well as adult classes. We're running a string class for the 3rd consecutive season, taught by Dr. Anna Braun. She was a longtime teacher at Churchill Junior High School, and she's one of the most passionate and dedicated musicians and educators, and a lot of her former students came to join her class.
Okay, so how did your partnership with EB Rex and Parks Department help grow the Community Sinfonia?
It was essential, it is essential to its success. Michael Reisner, who runs the Recreation and Parks Department, along with Jeff Litt and Nicole Golden, have been absolutely indispensable as a resource for how to design this and to proceed. We talked about everything from budget to the expectations of concerts, and certainly using this building as part of the township, it avails it to us. If there are other meeting spaces that are available, that partnership really helps, but we work together in developing it because we all have the same goal, which is to elevate the arts programming in East Brunswick.
As the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra, you perform between many ages. How do you make sure all ages are engaged during the performances?
Sure, so our programming is family friendly, which means that no matter if you are a newborn or if you are 101 years old, as the founder of the East Brunswick Arts Commission, Estelle Goldsmith, is, who came to our concert, everybody can enjoy these concerts. We make sure that our facilities are accessible literally for complying with ADA requirements, making sure that the sound is appropriate, and certainly the music is enjoyable by all. But for participating in it, it's for adults to play, because we want some places that we could flourish and fulfill our musical wants and needs. I think adults have many hobbies, and having a gift of playing a musical instrument, it is a very, most of the time it's a very solo-oriented practice session, and there aren't many places to perform, so we're creating so much opportunity for musicians of all different levels, amateurs to paid professionals.
Okay, so you mentioned this a few points back, that you met an unmet need when you did East Brunswick. Is there any other reason why you picked East Brunswick to make the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra?
Well, I've been a resident here for 14 years. I love living here. I love the people. I love the community. I love our events. We do a lot as a community. I feel feel that we come together as a community. This East Brunswick has a proven track record of meeting the needs of the community, and it just so happened to be that I uncovered a little section that hadn't been tapped yet.
Yes.
So it's my honor to provide that service, and I certainly would want to do it with the town's help and also support, which we're really blessed to have. Everybody's very excited to have a symphony orchestra in a town is extremely rare, and having this community symphonia is another aspect of the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra and the classes to bring the whole picture together.
Okay, so you mentioned community over 100 times during this interview. How important is community to the success of the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra?
I would say it's the most important, right? Music is, it's self-fulfilling because we get gratification from it, but if we can't share it, is it really as gratifying?
No.
Right, so I think it's really important to involve the community in everything you do, and to spread joy. Music also helps with mental health, and it has a lot of other benefits.
As an East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra, what steps do you take to support local musicians?
Sure, well, we make sure that musicians are paid a fair wage. That is an issue that we, from beginning, have embraced, and really we respect musicians' time. There's hundreds of hours that get rehearsal and practice that goes between that and the performance you hear, and it's travel time and it's instruments to keep up, it's expensive. We really want to support musicians. When we support musicians, it goes right back in the local economy. This idea of concerts is a wonderful example, because when people go to a concert, you more than likely have a meal before, so you're frequenting the restaurants, and you are maybe doing a little shopping, and then you'll come to the concert having paid a ticket, which also goes back into the economy. So the arts are one of the most underrated yet highest grossing economic boosts that can happen. To have a symphony orchestra in our town should do significantly, should bring significant commerce opportunities.
Yeah, so as you've mentioned earlier in the podcast, you've done performances at East Brunswick Day, the 4th of July. How much hours of preparation does it take to make sure that they're fully ready for the day?
So for a professional orchestra, believe it or not, our sold out premiere concert, one rehearsal. And it was supposed to have two, but we had snow. So the Community Arts Center was unavailable to us. Professionals have been playing some repertoire for a while, and they understand how it can come together. So a few, ideally, maybe 4 rehearsals would be ideal. For a community symphonia, we rehearse 8 rehearsals before our concert. So we meet weekly.
Okay, so as the director of the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra, what are some long-term goals of this?
There are a few. One is we keep building our community symphonia and classes. We expand the classes to include not just string instruments, but woodwind instruments and percussion instruments. We hope to start procuring instruments through donations. We need to own timpani and triangle and castanets and all sorts of instruments to make the experience and of playing a diverse repertoire possible. We also, with the professional orchestra, will be performing a concert season in East Brunswick at different locations this year, and hopefully very special things, so stay tuned. But we will start to expand our concert season, and in the long term, when the Community Arts Center is going through an expansion, we hope to have a home here where a summer will be packed with concerts every week, and we'll have guest artists and really incredible programming. So I see this as just a little bit of a seed as to what this organization will become over the next 10, 20 years.
So you mentioned tons of names during this podcast. How important has networking been to the expansion of the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra?
Hugely crucial. I actually love networking. You can stick me in a room and I can talk to anybody, but what I love about it is what I learn about people when I engage in a conversation. I very rarely am not intrigued by somebody's dedication to their own profession. You know, a baker who started their own restaurant. It's so fascinating what inspires people. So sharing stories and also finding ways we can collaborate, networking. A lot of people assume that it's about, you know, if you can have that connection, but it's where that connection goes. It's meeting a friend and establishing a relationship, and even though it could be business and transactional, we respect people enough to want to invest in them in some way and help them in some way. And already the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra has been very, really blessed to be able to have had so many great and prosperous collaborations, and with everything from Stop and Shop donating food for a reception to making sure that the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra acknowledges different donations and gifts and advertises for other companies.
Would you like to tell our viewers any tips of how to be a great networker like you are?
Oh, I thank you. Don't be afraid to approach someone and introduce yourself, and come with just maybe a few questions that really start to develop. Not everybody is so comfortable in that situation, so you can really read them and see what entices them into the conversation. I find that in my life I always can connect to someone. There's some shared experience. So you just need to extrapolate what that shared experience is and see if you can work up a conversation based on that. But networking takes practice, and I encourage people to do it. The best way to learn how to do it is to do it.
Okay. So, what's the most rewarding part about being the director of the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra?
It's the best job I've ever had. It is by far the coolest job. It is so humbling to have someone smile when they hear East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra. They just are expecting what it is, which is this incredible gift of music and experience and shared joy. So I love who I work with. I love who I meet. I enjoy the fact that people are finding joy and creating opportunities both in business and in musical giving and the arts.
So you obviously have a flyer over here, marketing. How have you been able to market the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra?
This is an area I had to learn since I'm not fluent in marketing. I have been able as a nonprofit to use different programs such as Canva to help design marketing. My husband is a talented graphic artist and designed our logo. And so I've been able to figure out what our brand is, making one tip, if you notice here, the East Brunswick logo is embedded in our logo, and that is on purpose. I wanted the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra to feel like it's always been here. And as a funny story, I've overheard people take a flyer and say, oh, I didn't know East Brunswick had a symphony orchestra, and the truth is, it didn't. It's brand new. So people are assuming that it has been there for a while and that they're missing information when clearly that's not the case. So it's really exciting to know that it feels like it has been established. But marketing is challenging. I think marketing calendars between social media and when to meet with advertisers and people to collaborate is essential, but I'm still learning. It is very, very, it can be overwhelming, but it's essential to the success of a company.
Okay, so you mentioned a funny story about, oh, we didn't know East Brunswick had a symphony orchestra. Do you have any other more funny stories about the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra as a whole?
So some of the people, the professional musicians who've joined us, come from all different areas of expertise. And one of our bassoonists who played for the July 4th fireworks show brought his what's called a contra bassoon. It's a very rare instrument. It's expensive, and it's also used in some classical literature, but it's very rare for bassoonists to even own that instrument. It's not the same as a bassoon. Well, Jeff Lamarca brought this bassoon and told me an incredible story about it, which is that that exact bassoon was played by Disney musicians during the Peter Pan movie animation, where the crocodile was about to take Captain Hook's hand. And that bassoon that was heard in East Brunswick July 4th fireworks show is heard on the Disney movie and in the movie Fantasia. So I love hearing these stories about how these instruments came to be and how we're all connected. But I really enjoy meeting musicians, and even in the community symphonia, how many teachers work together in the same school district but different schools and are now connecting here. So it's a very small musical world.
So I'm gonna throw another name at you. You mentioned Nate White. How important is Nate White to the success of the East Brunswick Symphony Orchestra?
He is the gem. He is the key. He is the absolute, this would not work without him. I am extremely lucky to have him be part of the organization. He has such a gift musically, but also he understands how orchestras function as an organization. So while I'm handling the administrative aspect, he's able to work on the musical aspect and guide me into helping achieve his goals. So we have the same vision and we work together, and it's a lot of fun and enjoyable. He's very dynamic and he's so talented, and I enjoy every minute we spend together developing and building this orchestra. And we've already done such incredible things. I'm excited about the future.
Okay, so in this pamphlet you mentioned so many concerts. Which one is your favorite?
Well, we're going to have a huge Star Wars concert for May the 4th be with you. As soon as the venue is announced, we'll start announcing when tickets can be purchased. But we have a committee full of musicians, community members, local business owners, all coming together so that we can do something really special. So I encourage your listeners to save that date, May 4th, May the 4th be with you, and it will be an incredible live music of every episode of Star Wars, not the film, just the music, so everybody can enjoy, and that will be family friendly. There'll be some maker stations, and we're going to make it just a lot of fun bringing Disney here.
What's the most rewarding part about working with the orchestra? Because you're also in the orchestra.
Right, so I'm in the community orchestra, so for me playing is super rewarding, but really it's the people and the music. There's a visceral reaction that I get when I hear a melody that I haven't heard before, or a melody that I love, and I feel so blessed to have the opportunity to be around live music. I think after COVID we all missed music, and so I'm constantly grateful for the ability to hear live music and to be a part of the music world and geek out with everybody.
Yeah, nothing was to happen today. Well, and COVID-19 affected many businesses in 2020. What risks are you taking to make sure that this business does not get ruined by COVID-19?
So there are global catastrophes that we can't foresee. I think we can be smart about how we plan our concerts in the short term and long term to make sure that we are doing things in a healthy way where we're not compromising anybody's immunity, but also I think as an organization, when you build an institution, you build in those safeguards. So that's an interesting thing for me to think about in the future, how to mitigate those things. Maybe for me it's ticket sales, maybe making sure everybody is comfortable with buying a ticket and whatever that means if something gets canceled.
What advice would you give your younger self when first starting this business?
Oh, if I knew that this was coming, I would have been excited about this for years to come. But again, I really needed to experience absolutely everything that I've ever experienced in order to have the knowledge to be able to do this job, because my degree is in music education, and I believe that I'm a strong administrator, and I have volunteered on several nonprofit boards, and I've spent that time, and you have to learn how to work with people in order to get there. So the advice that I would have for myself is to stay the course, right? To learn everything you can and don't discredit any experience. If I would have thought, oh, maybe I should have done that, I don't think that anymore.
What advice would you give someone who wants to start their own symphony orchestra?
Do it. It's so much fun. Surround yourself with smart people. Do a lot of research. Read. Ask questions. Surround yourself in a town such as East Brunswick that has a lot to give, and also the idea that you'll be able to give back.
So as this podcast is coming to an end, do you want to tell us about some of the events you have planned for next year?
Sure. I think our November 24th concert will sell out very quickly since it's only 200 seats. I think we sold 30 tickets today alone. So I encourage people to stay on the ebsomusic.org website for more information about upcoming performances and news. Nate White will be giving a performance at the East Brunswick Public Library November 3rd, and that's free to the public, so I encourage people to come to that as well.
Okay, as the last question, what's your favorite genre of music that you like to listen to, or favorite musical artists?
I have too many to mention, but I can tell you a few songs that I listened to today. One, when I was working out, was that old 90s song, Everybody's Free to Feel Good.
Yeah.
Love that song. I'm a big Green Day fan, and because I'm performing in the Community Symphonia, I've been listening to Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake Waltz so that I can play the piece. I've been studying that a lot. So those are the last three pieces that I've heard today.